Okay, Google, turn the lights on.
Sure, turning 3 lights on.
Hi, I'm Matthew Dean Furlo, and you're listening to the Furlo Bros Tech Podcast Tech Review. Tonight, we're going to be doing our first tech review of the Google Home. This is Google's device that's meant to bring their ecosystem into your home, and I've had it for a couple of weeks. It's pretty fantastic, and I want to tell you about it tonight. Hardware. So the hardware is about what you would expect at this point from a company like Google. It's fantastic. It looks really good. It's super solid construction. And just from a simple design perspective, they really nailed it. It looks good on your desk. It looks good just about anywhere. So you got no worries there. From an actual performance perspective, it's really snappy, hears really well, so the things that are actually internal to it, the type of processor it has, everything that it needs to perform well at what it does, it has. It doesn't hold anything back. The Wi-Fi is really quick. It's pretty fantastic. They've done a very, very good job. Obviously, the most important thing about the Google Home, since all it does is ever listen to you, is how good it is at hearing. Now, it's got a keyword. Okay, Google, what's your name?
I'm your Google Assistant.
Okay, Google, turn up the volume so we can hear you.
Sorry, I don't know how to help with that yet.
Okay, Google, turn up your volume to 100%. Okay, Google, what's your name?
You can call me your Google Assistant.
Got it. The sound system's really good, obviously, from a what it can hear you saying perspective. The speaker is another issue. It's not going to win any awards for sound quality, which, is fine. That's not what it's here for. It's designed to be part of a larger ecosystem. But just as a sound system, it does an adequate job. For example, okay, Google, play some music.
Playing some music on Spotify.
And then most importantly, okay, Google, stop the music. See, it heard me over its own volume, which is important because it can get kind of loud. It's not the greatest sound quality, but it is loud. And so the fact that it can still hear you, those are the sorts of things when you're evaluating a system like this that you really want to look at and, make sure it's great. And they've done a great job in that category. Software. The Google Home is a two-part system when it comes to its software. There's the software it has on its system, then there's the software that it has in the cloud. So break it down into two components. The software on the system is relatively limited in what it actually does because as far as you can tell, it only listens to you. But once again, it does that very well. It's very quick, it's very snappy. The hardware that it's running, it's well designed for, so there's no questions there. Google is great with its machine learning, especially hearing language and understanding what you're saying. So it's one of those things where even though it can't necessarily do everything, what it hears you say, it understands what it's hearing. If it's capable of doing it, it will understand what you asked it to do. The only time it has struggles is when it can't actually do that. For example, okay, Google, order me a pizza.
I can find pizza near you. Just ask.
You see, and it struggles with those sorts of things where it clearly understood what I was asking for. It just doesn't know how to do it.
Sorry, I don't know how to help with that yet.
Features. The software is good. So what sort of features does it have? Frankly, right now, Google Home's feature set is pretty limited. It can do a lot for what it's capable of, but compared to other things like Alexa, it's lacking. So where it really excels are anywhere that you can use the Google Knowledge Graph to your advantage. So quintessential example is, okay, Google, how far is it from here to the moon?
The moon is 238,900 miles from Earth.
Which is pretty cool. You can also use it for things like, okay, Google, how far from here to my work?
You're 10.3 miles away from work by car.
Okay, Google, how long will it take me to get to work?
On your way to work, traffic is light as usual. It is 17 minutes by car.
So those are the sorts of things that Google Home is really great at right now. Some of the other useful things, if you're somebody who is a really like in-depth calendar with all sorts of things that you're constantly putting into it, you can ask things like, "Okay, Google, what does my day look like today?"
Good evening, Matthew Dean. The time is 9:29 p.m. The weather in San Jose currently is 46 degrees and clear with a high of 59 degrees. Have a good one.
Yes.
Here's the latest news from NPR News
Okay, Google,
Summary
stop.
at 8 p.m.
See, the problem here is I don't have anything in my calendar. I'm not very. So, this is definitely one of those things where there are certain features that it has right now that are great if you're the sort of person that already has that part of your ecosystem filled out. I'm not great with my calendar, so it's not super useful to me. But obviously, it knows where I work already, so that sort of a feature is very useful. Google Home is also great for covering the basics of things like time management. For example, okay, Google, set an alarm for 8 a.m. tomorrow morning.
There, your alarm's set for tomorrow at 8 a.m.
So the other big feature set that things fall into, I'm going to call entertainment. Music's a big deal on this system. It's got a number of different platforms that it connects to, like Google Music, YouTube Music, Spotify. They all work really well. You do need a Spotify premium account for it to work, but it'll play any music that you ask it to play for, which is exactly what you want, but also using your different Chromecast devices around your house. So I don't have a Chromecast device right now, but if you ask it to play a YouTube video and send it to a Chromecast device on your TV, that'll automatically kick over. So that's sort of like a universal remote for those sorts of services, which is fantastic if you've got that ecosystem built up. Which kind of brings me to my next point. You might be sitting there asking yourself, who would want something like this? Apple versus Google's ecosystems. So to answer the question of who is this for, it kind of depends on what sort of an ecosystem you have. Are you kind of invested in the Apple thing, or are you invested in the Google thing? Because if you're not invested in either and don't want to be, this is probably redundant. But if you're already heavily invested in Google's ecosystem, you got a bunch of Chromecast, you got a Google TV, you got an Android phone, and you have all those bases covered, this is a great addition to it because it works with all of those different devices. Presumably you've got a thermostat that connects and lights that connect and things like that that already work with Google's ecosystem, and this is just a great piece of that. Now, if you're totally invested in the Apple ecosystem, like I tend to be, that's not necessarily me telling you not to get this, because this is a great way in. A lot of your devices, your Chromecast, if you're interested in getting into that side of the Google hardware, well, this is a great entry point to be able to control your house. Future expectations. Now, I think the biggest thing that Google Home has going for it right now is that it's going to be awesome in the future. So, what it's capable of now is relatively limited in the types of features, but those are all features that are either software, entirely software local, or web services on the back end. Those are both things that can and will be evolved over time. From a hardware perspective, it's great, and it will continue to function as time goes forward, as more services come out, as more devices get connected. It'll still be a good piece of hardware and a good investment. What kind of features am I talking about? A couple of big ones for me is I'd love to be able to do voice calling through it. I'd love to be able to do voice texting and email along those lines. For example, right now I can't say, okay Google, send a message to James saying, this video is going really well, I'm having a good feeling about it.
Sorry, I can't send messages yet.
You see, now that is an important part, because a lot of times you will, if you're getting creative, you'll get an answer like that. Sorry, I can't do that yet. Now, and that's distinctly different than sorry, I can't do that or I don't understand from a Google development perspective. It's telling you something that they're working on and the direction they're going. Obviously, this is going to grow even more. This is the direct competitor with Amazon's Echo, and one of the great things that Amazon's doing there that really sets it apart from any other device in the market is all the different services that it's connected to, whether it's ordering pizza or Uber or different light hardware that you can control. Now, Google's natural voice understanding is a lot more complete than Amazon's, but the different things Amazon's services can do are just, they're way above what anybody else is trying to do right now. So the simple fact is that Google's running behind, but they will catch up. They're working on that. That's a huge goal of theirs over the next couple of years, and you're going to see that continue to evolve. So if you buy this thing, you're not going to be disappointed. But yeah, so that's Google Home. I really like it. I'm going to be bummed when we give it away, but hey, that's why we do this show, so that people can share our joy. If you like this sort of thing, my brother and I do a weekly podcast. It's called the Furlo Bros Tech Podcast. I'm Matthew Dean Furlo. Thanks for listening. Okay, Google, turn the lights off.
Sure, turning 3 lights off.